Breaking news, a pedestrian crash on South Saunders Street in Raleigh. What we're learning from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker this morning.
Today's a WRAL weather alert day for the chance of storms and flooding. Today, the potential shifts to a different part of the viewing area. I'll show you who's more likely to see the storms.
Necessary improvements. A new report says Wake County schools need $2 billion in facility upgrades in the next 5 years. WRAL breaks down the most pressing needs ahead of the school year.
Breaking news, all the top stories and important weather information coming your way. Thanks for starting your morning with us. I'm Renee Chu.
I'm Chris Levin. A lot to dive into this morning. Let's begin with weather with meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner. She's been watching the radar very closely as she's tracking that next weather maker for us.
Yes, and we're still dealing with the same pattern. This boundary, the stationary front, actually lifting northward as a warm front across our area, could shift the focus of storms later on today to our northern counties. Timeline will be the same, still late afternoon and evening thunderstorms and the same risks. We do have the potential for some wind damage. We did have a number of trees down yesterday. We also had some flooding. We could see that again today too, but it's less likely in our southern counties today, more likely to be in our northern counties. That's where that level 2 risk is, where again we'd have that potential for some wind damage and some flooding. The timeline similar to yesterday. We'll see mid to late afternoon showers and thunderstorms developing, but this is new, different from yesterday. We do have a heat advisory in our southern counties. So Goldsboro, Clinton, Fayetteville, Rayford, you're all in that heat advisory. This afternoon, it could feel like up to 106 with the heat. Around the area, the Triangle in particular, we could see a high this afternoon of around 93. Our wet pattern continues. Tomorrow's another WRAL weather alert day. We could have more widespread showers and thunderstorms, and the rain continues Thursday with a front that could also bring us some cooler temperatures. We'll look at that coming up. Ken?
Elizabeth, we're staying on top of that breaking news on South Saunders Street. We're talking about a deadly pedestrian crash that happened just before 5 o'clock this morning. Let's get to Kelsey Coffey and the WRAL breaking news. Kelsey, what do we know so far?
To look at this extensive scene here on South Saunders Street in Raleigh. You can see officers here investigating. Officers say that this call came in just before 4:45 this morning. Right now, northbound South Saunders Street is closed between Carolina Pines Avenue and Iliagnis Road, and only one southbound lane is open, or it actually looks like now there are 2 southbound lanes open. That's new within the last 10 minutes or so. So we'll be sure to keep you updated on when we find out when this road will fully reopen, and we're also working to find out what actually led up to this crash. So Ken, what can you tell people if they have to drive through this area as a part of their morning drive?
All right, Kelsey, of course, the southbound lanes behind Kelsey, those are folks heading to Garner. The northbound lanes, those are folks coming in from Garner this morning. So if you get ready to leave the house, avoid South Saunders and check Hammond Road or Garner Road as 2 alternate routes. That way you can get around South Saunders and not have to worry about it. As far as other main routes coming into the Raleigh, no delays whatsoever. I-87, I-40 east and westbound, delay free at this hour. You're getting ready to head into the car, though. Tune us in on the radio, 101.5 HD3.
Ken, thank you. People are cleaning up today after severe weather that came through the Triangle last night. Take a look at this damage that a tree left inside the home in Cary near Southeast Cary Parkway. Pieces of walls and insulation are everywhere, and parts of the roof are gone. One of the people who rents a room at the home was inside at the time, but thankfully was not hurt. As we face the threat for more severe storms today, stay connected with the WRAL weather app. You'll get important alerts right to your phone. Make sure your notifications are turned on. Today, Wake school leaders will discuss how a new survey shows its facilities need billions of dollars in improvements in just the next 5 years.
So let's go out to one of those schools right now, live with Allie Cabdabar. She's in front of Durant Road Elementary School in Raleigh. Allie, most of the money is needed for renovations.
Yeah, and most of those renovations are focused on HVAC systems, which we've talked a lot about over the past few years. Now, a draft report of a recent district survey shows that its schools need $2 billion of improvements, and that will need to take place in the next 5 years. The survey was put together by a third party, and it's based on school documents and interviews with school teachers. Now, renovations are specifically needed on facilities' heating and cooling systems, electrical and plumbing. WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst explains why the district is focusing on renovations.
they've put a much greater emphasis on renovations versus building new schools because that student population hasn't necessarily been going up quite a bit. But the schools need over $1.2 billion in renovations.
Now, the school doesn't necessarily have the money for these renovations in its current budget, but there will be a bond on the ballot in November. And so they're expecting to discuss that. We're expecting for them to discuss that tonight at 5:30. Reporting live in Raleigh, Ali Kadlabar, WRAL News.
Today, the body of a Fort Bragg soldier who was killed in the Middle East will return home. President Donald Trump will be at Dover Air Force Base today to honor Tyler Feehan and Isabella Gonzalez. They were killed in an Iranian attack on an air base in Jordan. Feehan was part of Fort Bragg's 2nd Battalion, 55th Air Defense Artillery Regiment. He was from Hawaii. Gonzalez was from Texas. The U.S. has carried out another round of strikes against Iran. This new wave of attacks against both sides has been going on for more than 10 days now. The latest strikes were announced by U.S. Central Command. There were no new details on the targets. Iranian state media reported explosions in several locations. This comes hours after President Trump warned that Tehran would pay for the recent deaths of U.S. service members. The Pentagon says nearly 100 U.S. service members have been injured since July 7th.
Today, the Cary Town Council will meet for a work session, and it'll be the first time they have met since a recent state auditor's report revealed questionable spending. That audit is already prompting changes to the town's credit card policy. The report blamed Cary's spending problem partly on an abundance of town-issued credit cards. State leaders say that a higher percentage of town staff were given credit cards compared to other municipalities, and that raised the risk of wasteful spending. A former Cary council member says some of that spending went unchecked.
The greater concern was not how many cards were issued, it was the lack of oversight of the expenses.
So town leaders say they are changing training and reviewing the requirements for cardholders. Updates are expected by February next year, and the town says it has cut the number of staff with government credit cards by 25% since state auditors began their investigation.
The town of Zebulon is also under the microscope by the state auditor's office. An investigation found the town is facing a $2.5 million deficit and that it lacks proper oversight. The report cited turnover over the last 2 years, including resignations from the town manager and assistant town manager. It also highlights excessive spending on travel for town commissioners and administrators, as well as excessive unsupported payments to consultants. All of this has people who live there concerned about where their tax dollars are going.
And the audit and mentioned hotel rooms being $600+ a night for 2 commissioners to go to D.C. That just seems overspending, not using our money as citizens, taxpayers wisely.
Zebulon's town manager responded to the auditor's findings earlier this month. In a letter, she said the town has implemented several organization-wide initiatives to strengthen governance, internal controls, and financial oversight. The state auditor said better controls would have prevented these problems from occurring in the first place.
State troopers are investigating a Wilson County crash that left 2 drivers dead, and they say a truck made an abrupt U-turn around 7:30 last night in the westbound lanes of I-587. It hit a car head-on, and both drivers died. A third car crashed into the median while avoiding the crash, but no one was injured in that car. Troopers say the victims' names will be released at a later time. All right, let's talk about gas prices. They are climbing across our area. Numbers from AAA this morning show the average in Raleigh for a gallon of regular $3.75, which is up 7 cents from yesterday. Over in Durham and Chapel Hill, $3.76, also an increase of 7 cents. In Fayetteville, it's $3.69. Now, nationwide, the price of gas has climbed back above that $4 mark per gallon. Gas prices fell, yes, recently, but the trend is reversing, as AAA is reporting the national average is $4.02. The U.S. and Iran are fighting for control over the Strait of Hormuz, and as we have been reporting, that's the waterway through which 20% of the world's oil supply travels. Last week, only 8 ships crossed the strait, and before the war started, the BBC reports more than 130 ships would travel the strait per day. WRAL.com, of course, has your list of the lowest gas prices in your community with our fuel tracker. Just search fuel on our website.
Today, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will give an update on water levels at Falls Lake. Earlier this month, summer storms did add a foot of water to the lake. The most recent data, though, shows the levels are still far lower than where they need to be. Raleigh water customers are still under Stage 1 restrictions. It's expected to stay that way for the time being.
Time on the clock is 6:10, and a man is recovering from a bison attack and finally sharing his story.
They move faster than you could ever imagine. He just kept coming, and he was more aggressive.
Fairly certain you've seen this video on social media, right? Him sent flying into the air while trying to protect his grandson. We're going to hear how he described the moments before the animal charged.
New tariffs. The Trump administration is targeting Canada once again. The escalating trade tensions and how the Canadian wildfires could play a role.
And our stormy weather pattern continues. But today, the greatest risk will be in our northern counties. We'll talk about the timeline for when the storms start coming up.
Stay safe with the latest WRAL Weather Alert Day info. Get up to the minute weather and traffic conditions when you get in your car. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM, in Durham 96.5 FM, and everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
6:13, we take a look at our next weather maker. The focusing mechanism that brought us all the thunderstorms right around the triangle yesterday shifts a little bit northward for today, so the focus could be closer to the Virginia line, but the impact will be the same. We could have wind damage. We did have a lot of trees down yesterday, and we did have some street flooding, so more of the same, especially in our northern counties. Hail's a possibility along with a tornado, but those risks are much lower. Timeline about the same. Expect mid to late afternoon showers and thunderstorms that continue through the evening. This morning, it's nice and quiet. We do have some lingering cloud cover, but it's a pretty sunrise from the well departments looking toward downtown Raleigh. 75 in Raleigh, 70 in Roanoke Rapids, 74 in Wilson, 75 in Goldsboro. Exercise this morning, well, you know, it feels like summer. It's really warm and muggy. Later on this afternoon, it'll be hot and humid. As a matter of fact, we have a heat advisory in our southern counties. I'll show you who's affected coming up. Ken?
Elizabeth, we are staying on top of that breaking news on South Saunders. The northbound lanes of South Saunders completely shut down as a result of a deadly pedestrian crash. What you're seeing are the southbound lanes coming toward us. Those are the folks heading toward Garner. So back here now into the WRAL Traffic Center, if you are stuck in this situation, traffic right now is being diverted onto Pecan Road. This is just not far from the Sam's Club, by the way. So if you're coming in from Garner right now and you're getting into your car, 101.5 HD3, you're listening to us, you might want to get over at Hammond Road or Garner Road, depending on where you're headed, to avoid South Saunders right now. I'll check some other major routes into Raleigh coming up in about 10 minutes.
Ken, thank you. By now, you've likely seen this video of the man who was attacked by a bison at Yellowstone National Park. And there he goes into the air. Now that man is speaking from his hospital bed. That was 65-year-old Carl McDaniel. He is recovering from a fractured hip after he was launched into the air. McDaniel says he and his grandson were on a walk after dinner when they saw the bison at Yellowstone National Park. He says the animal appeared to be calm, but then it started charging. The bison chased him as he was trying to protect his grandson.
We saw the bison, and he was down. He wasn't showing aggression or anything like that until it picked a target. That target happened to be me. I didn't get bruises from him launching me in the air. It was the landing that came the problem.
Fortunately, his grandson was not harmed, thanks to his granddad. The National Park Service says you should always stay more than 25 yards away from bison. And if one charges at you, run.
President Donald Trump has announced new 50% tariffs against Canada, and these tariffs will apply to cars, dairy, and alcohol. A senior administration official says this is in response to what it calls discriminatory actions Canada has taken against U.S. products. The official emphasized this is not in response to the Canadian wildfires. However, they said the president is asking his aides to look into that possibility. And the president also says he is planning to meet with Britain's new prime minister soon. On Truth Social, the president said he has already spoken with Prime Minister Andy Burnham, and he says they talked about trade, the Middle East, and the military alliance between the U.S. and the U.K.
And happening now here in the WRAL Live Center, we continue to stay on top of the latest in the Middle East with the war on Iran with this video from U.S. Central Command as the U.S. continues launching strikes on Iran. Now, Lebanon's president plans to meet with President Trump today to wrap up a 4-day visit to Washington in a bid to bring about long-term calm in the war-torn country. Now, Joseph Aoun's landmark meeting with the president comes as Lebanon and Israel continue to hold rare direct talks mediated by Washington. Lebanon hopes that they will result in Israeli troops withdrawing from large swaths of southern Lebanon that they currently occupy. Lebanon and Israel announced a framework agreement on June 26, really setting a plan for Israeli forces to withdraw from southern Lebanon.
Laura, thank you. Senator Darlene Graham plans to run to be the Republican nominee for her late brother's Senate seat. Graham was sworn into the U.S. Senate last week to serve the remainder of Lindsey Graham's term. Darlene has never held public office before now. She is the first woman to represent South Carolina in the U.S. Senate. She will face several Republicans in the August 11th primary. The winner of that race will go up against Democrat Annie Andrews in November.
Today, the Carolina Blaze will pick up where they left off before their game last night was suspended. That was because of, yes, you guessed it, the weather. The Blaze were up 8-0 against the Oklahoma City Spark in the second inning when the game stopped. The game will resume at 10 o'clock this morning.
A lot of disruptions from yesterday's stormy and rumbly weather, and we could see more of that today, Elizabeth. We are just in this pattern.
We really are, and that will continue at least through Thursday, so we have more to come. The timing of this afternoon will be very similar, as well as the risks. We did, of course, have some thunder and lightning yesterday. Let's take a look at some of the video that we had. This is really dramatic. Give it a second or two, and then watch the tower there, how the lightning strikes it right there. Just really a dramatic scene there. And, of course, the tower's designed to withstand the lightning. Of course, it sits up there almost like a lightning rod, but that was our Capitol Broadcasting radio tower. It did not knock the radio station off the air, but pretty dramatic video there. We'll continue to have the chance of some strong storms today, as well as some flooding, but where it ends up could be a little farther to the north. You can see the front lifting, so the warm front's lifting northward, so that could put the focus of storms today much closer to the Virginia line, leaving folks in the south without seeing a whole lot. As a matter of fact, we didn't see much severe weather at all in our southern counties. We had a lot of that clustered around the triangle and actually over into Edgecombe County, too. So Zebulon up toward Wake Forest, Wendell, a cluster from West Raleigh over toward Apex and Cary, and then just west of Smithfield, south of Clayton, and over around Rocky Mountain east into Edgecombe County. That's where we had the wind damage reports yesterday. Lots of trees down in those places. Here's a look at where the heaviest rainfall was over around Sanford, right around Wake County, southern parts of Johnston County, and then just to the north. You see it's kind of clustered right through the middle of the viewing area. We had as much as 2 to 2.5 inches in parts of Wake County, almost 3 inches in parts of Harnett County, 2.5 near Sanford, 3.5 in the southern part of Johnston County, and 2.5 to 3 inches just to the north as well. Our flood risk for today is a little bit lower, and farther to the north, our severe threat, that's our wind damage threat, again for our northern counties. Wednesday, we're a level 2 risk across the entire viewing area, much like we saw yesterday. And Thursday, currently we don't have a severe threat in terms of wind damage, but we do have a risk for flooding that will continue. Here's Futurecast, starting things off just after lunchtime. You can see showers and thunderstorms, some of these developing early on along the sea breeze front, but then a better chance for some storms in the north. Once we get between 5 and around 9 p.m., we could see some severe storms there. Our next weather maker, as we get through, especially Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to have a stalled front, another new front that comes in, and we're going to have a better chance for rain, especially Wednesday night into Thursday, and that's when flooding will be a greater threat for us. This is a look at our flood risk for Thursday, and it's medium across pretty much the entire viewing area. How much rainfall are we looking at? 2 to 5 inches in the next 7 days. That should, again, help to chip away at the drought. Thursday's front also brings some cooler temperatures with highs in the 80s Thursday through Sunday. Ken?
Elizabeth, happening now in the WRAL Traffic Center. There's breaking news on South Saunders Street. The northbound lanes of South Saunders Street, those are the lanes coming into Raleigh this morning, closed between Carolina Pines and Iliagnis Road as a result of a pedestrian crash, a deadly pedestrian crash, albeit. And what you're seeing now are the southbound lanes heading toward Gardner this morning. So Back here into the WRAL Traffic Center, here's what it looks like based on our live traffic map. You can see that road is completely shut down. So if you're coming in from Garner this morning, your best bet will be to head over to Hammond Road or Garner Road as two alternate routes to avoid South Saunders right now. Of course, we have the WRAL breaking news tracker on the scene. We'll have a live report at the bottom of the hour. But right now, we're not picking up any delays on any of the other major routes heading into Raleigh at this hour.
All right, we're talking about splitting the bill as many young travelers are taking on unnecessary debt during group trips. Five on Your Side has what you need to know before planning a vacation with your friends or family.
Flea infestation. A popular Surf City beach access is still off limits. How it's putting a damper on travelers' plans. Surf City is working to treat a flea infestation. For almost a week now, the town has told people to avoid public beach access 25 while crews treat the infestation. They are treating it with a liquid pest solution. People visiting the area say it's become a nuisance.
Yeah, I mean, we rented the Airbnb right over there so that we could have direct beach access. And so now we have to walk like a mile farther to get on the beach.
The town is working to determine the source of the infestation. There is no timeline yet for when that beach access point will reopen.
This What's Trending report is sponsored by Call Dad AC and Heating.
Some big news for Parrot Heads.
All right, let's bring in Ken Smith to talk about it and what's trending.
Big news there is. How about new music from the late Jimmy Buffett? The Coral Reefer Band keeping his legacy alive by releasing a new album posthumously. It will reportedly feature a lot of previously unreleased music from the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer.
Yeah, the oldest song was from 2003. The most recent, just 4 years ago. No title or release date has been announced for the album. You may remember Jimmy Buffett died in 2023. He was 76 years old.
And it's always 5 o'clock somewhere.
All right, so this morning we're talking about school repairs as there are Wake County schools in need of major work before the fall. The update we're looking to get from the school board before the teachers and students return to class.
Breaking news, police are at the scene of a pedestrian crash on South Saunders Street in Raleigh. This is a live look at the police response, what we know about the crash, and how this could affect the morning commute.
And another day with scattered showers and storms, but this is new, a heat advisory in effect for our southern counties. I'll show you what the heat index will feel like as we head through the afternoon.